Nathaniel Calloway always thought his life was perfect. His work as a structural engineer allowed him to provide a stable and comfortable life for his family. Eleanor, his wife of 12 years, was the heart of their home. With their 2 children, Lily and Evan, the Calloways seemed like the epitome of a happy family. But something had changed. Eleanor's frequent work trips had become longer. Her laughter seemed guarded, and there were moments when Nathaniel couldn't shake the feeling that she was withholding something. He dismissed these thoughts as paranoia, unwilling to believe that the woman he loved could betray him. One crisp autumn evening, Nathaniel came home early, his footsteps crunching over fallen leaves as he entered the house. The warm glow of the living room lamp greeted him, but the house was unusually quiet. "Eleanor?" he called out, placing his bag by the door. "In the bedroom?" her voice replied from upstairs. As Nathaniel ascended the stairs, his foot nudged something small and metallic. Looking down, he spotted a glint of foil near the bathroom door. Picking it up, he realized it was the backing of a contraceptive pill. His mind froze. Eleanor hadn't used birth control in years. Not since before Evan's birth. After Evan, Nathaniel had undergone a vasectomy. This didn't belong in their house. "Everything okay?" Eleanor's voice pulled him from his thoughts. She stood at the bedroom door, her auburn hair slightly damp from a shower. "I found this," Nathaniel said, holding up the foil. For a moment, Eleanor's expression tightened, but she recovered quickly, laughing lightly. "Oh, that? It's not mine. I carry them for a friend sometimes. She doesn't like keeping them at her place." Nathaniel nodded, but her response felt hollow. As they went downstairs for dinner, the doubt lingered. He wanted to believe her, but the tiny piece of foil felt like the first crack in the foundation of their marriage. By the next morning, Nathaniel couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Eleanor's cheerful chatter over breakfast sounded rehearsed, her kisses distracted. After dropping the kids at school, Nathaniel made a decision that felt both shameful and necessary. He walked into the office of Matthew Royce, a private investigator known for his discretion. Brunswick was a small town and word travelled fast, but Matthew's reputation assured Nathaniel that his suspicions would remain confidential. "I need you to look into my wife," Nathaniel said, feeling the weight of his own words. Matthew, a wiry man with sharp eyes, nodded without judgment. "What makes you suspect her?" Nathaniel hesitated. "She's been distant. Her work trips are longer than usual. And I found something odd at home." Matthew nodded again. "Give me the details. Her routines, her workplace, her trips. I'll start from there." Nathan left the office feeling a mix of guilt and relief. He didn't want to believe that Eleanor was unfaithful, but he couldn't ignore the nagging doubts. If he was wrong, he would owe her an apology. If he was right, he didn't want to think about that yet. Over the next week, Nathaniel tried to carry on as usual, but the weight of uncertainty was unbearable. Every glance at Eleanor felt like a test. When she laughed, he searched for cracks. When she kissed him, he questioned her sincerity. One evening, Eleanor mentioned an upcoming trip. "I'll be in New York for 3 days next week," she said, brushing her hair back. Nathaniel's stomach tightened. "Another client?" "Yes, it's a wedding at the Beaumont Hotel," she replied. Nathaniel forced a smile. "Sounds like a big deal." "It is," Eleanor said, her tone neutral. Nathaniel nodded, but his mind raced. Was this just another work trip, or something more? On a rainy Thursday morning, Matthew Royce called. "Mr. Calloway, I have something for you. Can you come by?" Nathaniel arrived at the office, his heart pounding. Matthew handed him a sealed envelope. "Take a seat," he said gently. Nathaniel opened the envelope. Inside were photographs and reports that confirmed his worst fears. Eleanor was pictured with another man. her hand intertwined with his as they exited a boutique. Another photo showed her entering a hotel suite with the same man. The man's name was Daniel Harrington, her former boss. The affair had lasted over 5 years. Nathaniel stared at the evidence, his breath shallow. The betrayal was overwhelming. He couldn't reconcile the woman in these pictures with the Eleanor he thought he knew. When Eleanor returned from her trip that weekend, Nathaniel was waiting for her. He sat in the living room, the envelope on the table in front of him. "How was New York?" he asked, his voice even. "It was productive," she said, avoiding his gaze. Nathaniel pushed the envelope toward her. "Then maybe you can explain this." Eleanor's face drained of color as she opened the envelope. Her hands trembled as she looked at the photos. "Nathaniel, I can explain," she whispered. "Explain?" Nathaniel's voice rose. "Explain how you could betray me for years. Explain how you destroyed our family." Tears streamed down Eleanor's face. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I never wanted to hurt you." "But you did," Nathaniel said, his voice breaking. "And now, I don't know if I can ever forgive you." The days that followed were a blur of anger, sorrow, and difficult decisions. Nathaniel retained custody of Lily and Evan, while Eleanor moved out. Despite her pleas for forgiveness, Nathaniel couldn't see a path forward. He tried to shield the children from the worst of the fallout, but their questions were impossible to avoid. Lily asked why her mum wasn't coming home. Evan wanted to know if everything would go back to normal. Nathaniel could only promise to be there for them, even as his own heart remained shattered. Months later, Nathaniel met Isabel at a local art festival. She was a painter, her vibrant landscapes reflecting the beauty of Brunswick. There was something about her warmth, her easy laughter, that drew Nathaniel in. Their conversations began as casual exchanges about art and life, but soon grew deeper. Isabel's kindness and understanding offered Nathaniel a glimpse of hope he hadn't felt in a long time. Eleanor began therapy, determined to understand her choices and rebuild her relationship with her children. She volunteered at the local shelter, trying to make amends for the pain she had caused. During supervised visits, Lily was distant, and Evan clung to Nathaniel. But Eleanor didn't give up. Slowly, she began to earn back small pieces of their trust. As Nathaniel's bond with Isabel deepened, he began to let go of the anger that had consumed him. Forgiving Eleanor wasn't easy, but he realized it was necessary for his own peace. On a spring morning, as he stood by Brunswick Lake with Isabel and his children, Nathaniel felt a sense of closure. Life wasn't perfect, but it was moving forward, and for the first time in years, he felt ready to embrace the future. The months passed with a cautious rhythm. Nathaniel's days were filled with work, parenting, and occasional moments with Isabel. While the wounds of betrayal had not fully healed, he found himself settling into a new normal. His relationship with Eleanor became businesslike, focused solely on co-parenting Lily and Evan. Eleanor's visits to see the children were scheduled and supervised. Initially, the air between them was thick with tension, but over time they found a tentative balance. She seemed genuinely remorseful, though Nathaniel wasn't ready to acknowledge it openly. One evening, after dropping the kids off at home following a visit with Eleanor, Nathaniel found Lily sitting quietly at the kitchen table, her sketchbook open but untouched. "What's on your mind, sweetheart?" he asked, sitting down beside her. Lily hesitated, her pencil hovering above the page. "Why does Mum cry when we leave?" Nathaniel's heart sank. She misses you and Evan. She's trying to be better." "Do you think she'll ever come back?" Lily's voice was small, her eyes searching his face. Nathaniel placed a hand on her shoulder. "I don't know, Lily, but no matter what happens, we'll get through this together." Lily nodded slowly, though the weight of her question lingered in Nathaniel's chest long after she had gone to bed. Eleanor's journey was far from smooth. Therapy forced her to confront the choices she had made and the pain she had caused. Her therapist, Dr. Crane, was unrelenting, pushing Eleanor to dig deep into her fears and insecurities. "It's not just about why you cheated," Dr. Crane said one session. "It's about why you kept going. What were you running from?" Eleanor looked down at her hands, twisting a tissue between her fingers. "I guess I was afraid of becoming invisible. I spent so much time being a wife, a mother, that I forgot who I was." "And Daniel? Did he make you feel seen?" Dr. Crane's tone was probing, but not unkind. Eleanor nodded, tears brimming in her eyes. "At first, yes, but in the end, it was all a lie. I wasn't even being true to myself." By the time Eleanor left that day, she felt both raw and lighter, as though she had finally taken the first real step toward rebuilding herself. Nathaniel and Isabel's relationship blossomed, but as they grew closer, Isabel couldn't ignore the shadow of Eleanor hanging over them. One evening, as they walked along the Brunswick River, she voiced her concerns. "Do you think you'll ever really let her go?" Isabel asked, her tone careful. Nathaniel stopped walking, surprised by the question. "I don't love her anymore, if that's what you mean." "I know that," Isabel said softly. "But there's more to moving on than not loving someone. Have you forgiven her?" Nathaniel exhaled, his breath visible in the crisp evening air. "I'm not sure. Some days I feel like I have, and other days, I don't know." Isabel reached for his hand. "Forgiveness isn't about her. It's about you. Carrying that anger around will only weigh you down." Nathaniel squeezed her hand, appreciating her wisdom even as he struggled to take it to heart. "I'll try," he said, and he meant it. Spring arrived in Brunswick, bringing with it a sense of renewal. Nathaniel stood at the edge of the lake, watching Lily and Evan play in the shallows, while Isabel sat nearby, sketching the scene. "You've come a long way," Isabel said, smiling at him. "So have we," Nathaniel replied, his gaze lingering on the children. Isabel set her sketchpad aside and took his hand. "Do you ever think about the future?" Nathaniel turned to her, his expression soft. "I think about it all the time, and for the first time in a long time, it feels like something to look forward to." As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Nathaniel felt a quiet peace settle over him. The pain of the past hadn't disappeared, but it no longer defined him. He had found hope again, and with it, the strength to move forward. Years had passed since the darkest moments of Nathaniel Calloway's life. The seasons in Brunswick had come and gone, each one carrying him further from the pain of Eleanor's betrayal and closer to the life he had rebuilt. Though the memories of those days lingered, they no longer haunted him. Instead, they served as reminders of his resilience. Nathaniel stood in the bustling auditorium, his heart swelling with pride as Lily walked across the stage to receive her diploma. Her years of dedication to her art had culminated in this moment, graduating from one of the country's top art schools. The applause was thunderous as she smiled and waved, her eyes finding his in the crowd. Beside him, Evan clapped enthusiastically. Now a sophomore in college studying environmental engineering, Evan had inherited Nathaniel's love for problem-solving. His passion for sustainability was evident in every conversation they had. And Nathaniel couldn't have been prouder. "Can you believe how far they've come?" Isabel's voice was soft as she leaned closer to Nathaniel. He turned to her, his wife of 10 years. her golden curls streaked with silver. "Not just them," he said, taking her hand. "All of us." Eleanor sat toward the back of the auditorium, her presence understated but meaningful. She had worked tirelessly over the years to rebuild her relationship with Lily and Evan. Though she knew she would never fully repair the damage she had caused, she took solace in the small victories: Evan's occasional phone calls, Lily's updates about her paintings. Eleanor had moved to a nearby city to be closer to her sister, finding purpose in volunteer work and a quieter life. Therapy had taught her to forgive herself, though the guilt would always be a part of her. Watching her children thrive was her greatest joy, even if her role in their lives remained smaller than she had once imagined. After the ceremony, she caught Nathaniel's eye as they passed in the lobby. He nodded politely, a gesture of acknowledgement that spoke volumes. While they were no longer friends, there was peace between them, an understanding that time had allowed them to achieve. Later that evening, the family gathered at Isabel and Nathaniel's lakefront home to celebrate Lily's achievement. The house was filled with laughter, the warmth of a shared meal, and the joy of a family that had weathered its share of storms. Lily brought out a surprise for everyone, a painting she had worked on for months. It depicted a sunrise over Branswick Lake, its colors vibrant and full of life. "This is for all of us," Lily said, her voice steady, "because no matter what we've been through, we always find our way back to the light." Nathaniel's chest tightened with emotion as he embraced his daughter. "It's perfect," he whispered. As the evening wound down, Nathaniel and Isabel found themselves alone on the porch, watching the moonlight reflect off the water. The soft hum of conversation from inside filled the air, a comforting reminder of how far they had come. "Do you ever think about the past?" Isabel asked, her head resting on his shoulder. Nathaniel nodded. "Sometimes, but it doesn't hurt the way it used to. It just reminds me of how lucky I am now." Isabel smiled, squeezing his hand. "You deserve this, all of it." "So do you," Nathaniel said, pressing a kiss to her temple. As the years went on, the Calloway family grew stronger. Lily's artwork gained national recognition, and Evan's innovative designs for sustainable living brought him acclaim in his field. Isabel continued to create beauty through her paintings, and Nathaniel found purpose mentoring young engineers, sharing his hard-earned wisdom. Eleanor remained a quieter figure in their lives, but maintained her efforts to stay connected. Her relationship with Lily and Evan, though never perfect, was meaningful in its own way, a testament to her perseverance and the power of small steps toward redemption. For Nathaniel, the journey had been far from easy, but it had shaped him into the man he was now. He had learned that true happiness wasn't about avoiding pain, but about finding strength in the face of it. The scars he carried were reminders of the battles he had fought and won, and the life he now cherished was all the more precious because of them. Standing by the lake one quiet evening, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of gold and lavender, Nathaniel felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. His life, though marked by loss, had been filled with love, growth, and the resilience to keep moving forward. And for the first time in years, he allowed himself to dream of what the next chapter might hold.